Welcome back to our channel where we provide updates and undisclosed narratives on Catherine, Princess of Wales and her royal family. We are excited to share the following news. King Charles officially cut off all financial support to Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. An insider source claims that there is a royal reckoning filled with rage and finality as King Charles cuts off Andrew and Fergie's last chance at life. Escaping the House of York is becoming difficult. King Charles III has issued a conclusive, irrevocable ruling about the future of his disgraced brother Prince Andrew and his perpetually controversial ex-wife Sarah Ferguson. This action signifies the conclusive end of a period and announces the final dissolution of their partnership. The Duke and Duchess of York, having navigated decades of controversy via a unique and sometimes enigmatic partnership, now face a dramatic disintegration. Financial motives, betrayal, and a monarch's unwavering desire to purify the royal family are driving this collapse. Andrew, the former Duke of York, aged 64, has been issued a succinct 3-month ultimatum to vacate Royal Lodge, the enormous 30-room house in Windsor Great Park that has been his residence since 2004. The ultimatum he is facing is quite harsh. This ejection represents the loss of a residence and marks the beginning of the most degrading exile circumstance in the annals of current royalty. The move will provide a final payment in the 6-figure range and a tightly regulated annual stipend from the king. He will be relocated to a more modest dwelling on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, which is currently under planning. In a surprising development that has reverberated across the family, Sarah Ferguson, the Duchess of York, who has supported him for almost 30 years, post-divorce has chosen to depart from him. The decree promulgated by the king has obliterated the mutually beneficial and financially lucrative arrangement that has allowed her to maintain a life marked by proximity to the royal family. Ferguson, now facing her own financial challenges, must rely on herself, as Charles's financial support is exclusively designated for his brother. A rapid and intense consequence has ensued as a result. Both Andrew and Ferguson are reportedly incensed and desperate due to the dissolution of their formerly unbreakable bond. Their children, Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie, are thought to be distraught, caught in the crossfire, and according to some with knowledge of the situation, more enraged by their mother's apparent desertion than by their father's extensive list of crimes. This matter is not just another dispute about the royal family. Basically, it is the careful and complete breakdown of the world that Andrew and Ferguson built together, a world marked by borrowed status, hidden money, and mutual comfort. This tale depicts a king who has exhausted his patience, a family fragmented by financial difficulties, and the last degrading decline of a prince who was once crucial to the British monarchy. The annihilation of a prince and 72 of his teddy bears. To understand the gravity of Prince Andrew's decline, one must first recall the heights from which he has descended. This individual, formerly titled Duke of York, is a distinguished helicopter pilot who served in the Falklands War and now holds the position of Special Representative for International Trade and Investment for the United Kingdom. Although he was a senior royal on the verge of the throne, he traversed the corridors of authority with a confidence that often bordered on arrogance. He is now recognized only as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. His royal and military titles have been revoked, and his reputation has been irrevocably tarnished due to his association with Jeffrey Epstein, a convicted sex offender. His exile from the heart of royal existence exemplifies a cautionary narrative. The British press has been notably severe in its criticism of the prince, exhibiting little reluctance in this regard. The Sun, the most popular national daily in Britain, criticized him harshly with a front-page title that encapsulated public sentiment with stark precision: 3 months to quit Lodge. The story described the outrage of Norfolk residents at their new unwelcome neighbor, with one resident stating, "We cannot tolerate him either." The jest directly alluded to a peculiar and revealing aspect of Andrew's character that has surfaced in recent years: his assemblage of 72 teddy bears. An evocative depiction of a man seen as emotionally stagnant, this meticulously arranged collection on his bed inside his 30-room residence has become a striking symbol. An individual once employed as a royal security officer recounted how the team received a schematic to ensure the bears were consistently arranged correctly each day. The public saw the eccentricity of a guy in his 60s not as a benign idiosyncrasy, but as a concerning indication of a life ensconced in a luxurious bubble impervious to reality. In light of the allegations against Andrew, one individual familiar with the situation said that Andrew possesses more teddy bears than women. This comment is both amusing and profoundly frightening. Royal Lodge was the designation of that bubble. Since 2004, Andrew has used the Grade 2 listed home as his fortress by remitting a nominal one-time premium of $249,000 and a modest ground rent estimated by some sources to be as little as $250 per week. He secured a 75-year lease from the Crown Estate. This was a negligible sum for a property valued at almost £30 million. Reports indicate that Andrew lived in opulent luxury, spending millions of pounds, partially funded by taxpayers on renovations and upkeep. This happened at a period when typical British households were grappling with an escalating cost of living challenge. Following his disastrous interview with BBC Newsnight in 2019, he was necessitated to retreat from public duties, finally seeking solace in this context. These walls served as his refuge from the media, where he formulated a plan for his resurgence and presumably organized his collection of stuffed animals. He had a contract that seemed to guarantee him a lifetime of subsidized opulence, and the lease served as his unassailable defense against the accusations. A new monarch ascends to the throne. After enduring significant pressure to modernize and streamline the monarchy, King Charles has reached his limit. Andrew must depart the kingdom before the year's conclusion in accordance with the king's command. Extensions and conversations are not feasible at this moment. The directive is clear and unequivocal. Collect the teddy bears and proceed. When loyalty comes with a price tag, according to the Fergie factor. Just as the news of the eviction was breaking, the Times of London dropped another bombshell, revealing the deeper, more personal drama that was unfolding behind the scenes. Andrew quits fight after losing loyalty of ex-wife. This is the point at which the story shifts from being a story about royal discipline to being a story about a profound personal betrayal. In Prince Andrew's life, Sarah Ferguson has been the unmovable object for the last 28 years. A succession of humiliating incidents, including the iconic toe-sucking images, led to the couple's divorce in 1996. After the divorce, the pair began on what they publicly touted as the happiest divorced relationship in the world. They continued to raise their two girls together while living together, first at Sunninghill Park and subsequently at Royal Lodge. A unified front was presented to the world throughout this time. As far as many people are concerned, Ferguson has been the first royal swindler. In spite of the fact that she was granted permission to keep the courtesy title of Duchess of York after her divorce, she was not allowed to keep her title of Her Royal Highness. For the last 3 decades, she has made use of this remaining royal tie in a skillful manner. Via her work as a spokeswoman for Weight Watchers and Wedgwood, as well as via her authoring of children's books and her production of historical documentaries, her career has been closely tied to her position as a quasi-royal. Despite the fact that she was, for all intents and purposes, a private person, she maintained relations with A-list celebrities such as Kate Moss and Elton John, attended royal functions, and enjoyed the protection and grandeur of residing in a residence owned by the Crown Estate. It is not a mistake to say that this agreement was advantageous to both parties. Despite his growing sense of isolation, Andrew was able to acquire companionship and a home manager. Ferguson, who dropped out of school with just 2 O-levels and has a history of mismanaging her finances, was able to get access a luxurious lifestyle and a platform from which to establish her business according to insiders. At this point, that platform has completely collapsed. However, it was not a moral enlightenment about Andrew's behavior that led to her leaving. Rather, it was a cold, practical financial calculation that was the impetus for her departure. She remained by him through the worst of the Epstein charges. A surgical level of accuracy was used in the design of the eventual settlement that King Charles made for Andrew. The money is intended only for his brother, and only for his brother. Sarah Ferguson does not have any provisions made for her. As a result, her own dire financial status has been brought to light. Ferguson is reportedly selling a magnificent Mayfair home that she bought only 4 years ago for a rumored price of £5 million, according to recent news reports. It is really important that she is selling it at a loss. Unless the seller is in a precarious financial situation, it is nearly unheard of for a great Mayfair asset to be sold at a loss in the vibrant and ever-appreciating central London property market. Indicative of a pressing need for cash, it yells. It would seem that she has very little to show for all of the years that she has spent engaging in business transactions, speaking engagements, and gaining access to the royal family. Simply stated, she does not have 2 pennies to rub together, was the harsh statement made by one of the commentators. Ferguson, who is confronted with this fact, has made her ultimate decision. Ferguson, who is 64 years old, and whose royal meal ticket has finally expired, is jumping off a gravy train that has reached its final station, as stated by the Times. Ferguson will not join her ex-husband when he moves into exile on the King's estates in Sandringham, and she will make her own plans to move on with her life, according to the Times. It was the time when the treasure was retrieved from the hold that the lady who had previously said that she and Andrew were more than friends and the most happy divorced couple in the world decided to leave ship. It is the destruction of the princesses that constitutes collateral damage. Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie are caught in the whirlwind of their parents' stunning downfall, which is capturing their attention. Having reached their 30s, they are now married and have children of their own, and they find themselves in an untenable situation, carrying the weight of the scandals that their parents have been involved in. It has been reported by many with knowledge of the royal family that they are completely and totally saddened by the turn of events, and their fury is focused in an unexpected way. A bombshell was published by Rebecca English, the esteemed royal editor for the Daily Mail. According to her sources, the princesses are more dissatisfied with their mother than they are with their father. Give that feeling some time to set in. The royal family has been reduced to a state of terrible embarrassment as a result of their father's involvement with a known pedophile who allegedly paid a sum of £12 million to settle a sexual assault case, and who has plunged the royal family into disrepute. However, according to reports, the acts of their mother are the ones that have contributed to the deeper harm. Betrayal is the cause behind this situation. The 3 ladies referred to their connection as the tripod for a number of years. This was a word that they used to characterize their relationship, which was apparently indestructible since it included 3 people. The metaphor is now really poignant in a sad way. To be able to stand a tripod needs all 3 of its legs. If you remove any of them, the whole construction will fall apart. According to the perspectives of her kids, Ferguson has removed a leg from the tripod by making the choice to walk away from Andrew when he was at his lowest point. Now they are seeing the disintegration of what they considered to be true about the cohesiveness of their family. In the end, Beatrice and Eugenie have confirmed what many people from the outside have believed for years, that their mother's allegiance was contingent on certain conditions. It was contingent on the preservation of a way of life that was given financial support by the monarchy. Once the flow of money stopped, so did the allegiance to the organization. These children are seeing their mother, the one who instilled in them the importance of family and the importance of being there for the people you care about, demonstrating that those ideals are not genuine. She stayed with Andrew even after he committed an offense that could not be forgiven. He had committed that offense many years earlier. This is the moment when she decides to go, since she is no longer going to benefit from it. The princesses themselves, who conduct themselves in the manner of Her Royal Highness, are in a vulnerable situation. Despite the fact that they are not working royals and do not get any financing from the government, they keep the titles and the baggage that come with their name. All of the news stories that they read about their father's scandal or their mother's financial difficulties are a reflection of them. At the same time as the monarchy is continuing its efforts to thin down, the subject of their long-term position is becoming more prevalent. During the calamity that their parents brought upon themselves, they are the innocent victims of collateral damage. The King's Gambit. A decision that is necessary. Despite its unpopularity. After waiting longer than any other successor in the history of the United Kingdom, King Charles III rose to the throne at the age of 73 during his reign. Immediately after he took power, he was confronted with a number of difficulties, including the diagnosis of his own disease, the continuous conflict with his younger son, Prince Harry, and the chronic wound caused by the scandal involving Prince Andrew. There has been a great amount of pressure placed on Charles to take decisive action with respect to his brother. This pressure has come from the general public, from Parliament, and most importantly, from inside the gates of the palace. It is commonly believed that the Prince and Princess of Wales, William and Catherine, have played a significant role in advocating for Andrew's full banishment from public life and royal palaces. This information has been extensively publicized. The following statement was made by a source. William and Kate went into lockdown and stated, "We're not doing business with this guy." It was said that they made it very plain that they would not allow Andrew to reside next door to them when they ultimately relocate to Windsor. This symbolizes the leadership of the next generation, characterized by lucid vision. William and Catherine, as representatives of the monarchy's future, recognize that the institution's survival depends on public confidence, which cannot endure amidst the stigma of the Epstein scandal. Conversely, Charles has been described as exhibiting more caution and being pushed into taking action rather than proactively initiating it. As the elder brother, he is conflicted between his familial obligations and his responsibilities as a king. In this difficult balancing act, the settlement he has created exemplifies greatness. The first action is to exclude Andrew from Royal Lodge, a prominent and expensive crown asset. This will terminate a significant depletion of public resources and a source of discontent among the civilian populace. Secondly, he is sent to Sandringham, a remote estate owned by the Queen. This effectively secludes him from the public sphere and positions him among other hired royals. The financial package has been precisely structured. A sum estimated to range from $250,000 to $500,000 would be disbursed to Andrew as a single sum to meet the costs related to his relocation. A stipend reportedly in the lower six-figure range will be granted to him annually. This stipend will not be disbursed from the sovereign grant funded by taxpayers, but rather from the king's personal revenue derived from the Duchy of Lancaster. A significant feature of this stipend is that it is designed to serve as a limited allocation. This will save Andrew from excessive expenditure and subsequent financial embarrassment. Subjecting a 64-year-old man to a pocket money regimen is analogous to this scenario from a financial perspective. The most callous and deliberate feature of the king's decision is the total exclusion of Sarah Ferguson from the discourse. Although Charles may have succumbed to the pressure exerted by his nieces to care for their mother, he chose to adopt a resolute position. In fulfillment of his familial responsibilities, he will care for his brother. Nevertheless, he will not provide financial assistance for the lifestyle of an ex-wife, who in the firm's view has been deriving benefits from a tenuous connection for many decades. The notice was clear: the Bank of Windsor is not accessible to anybody loitering around. The unsolved issue, the persistent shadow of the American judicial system. Although Andrew's exile to Norfolk may alleviate a local concern for the king, it fails to tackle the more substantial threat emerging across the Atlantic. The United States administration remains cognizant of Prince Andrew. The nature of his association with Jeffrey Epstein is under intense scrutiny. A multitude of evidence, including the flight logs of Epstein's private aircraft, photographs of Andrew with his arm around Virginia Giuffre, who was 17 years old, and the accounts of other witnesses unequivocally place Andrew into Epstein's social circle. Andrew's attempts to purify his identity have been utterly unsuccessful. His assertions of being unable to perspire, and his peculiar alibi of visiting a Pizza Express in Woking on the night of an alleged assault, were met with significant ridicule during his 2019 interview with the BBC. His interview exemplified self-sabotage. He paid an out-of-court settlement payment of about £12 million instead of going to court to face Giuffre. The funds for this settlement were allegedly provided by his deceased mother, Queen Elizabeth II. Despite the absence of an admission of guilt in the settlement, it was seen globally as indicative of a culpable individual. The matter remains unresolved as a consequence of this. The probe into the Epstein network continues, with the United States Senate Judiciary Committee conducting its inquiry and repeated calls for Andrew to testify under oath. His continued residence in the United Kingdom safeguards him from the need to appear before a court in the United States. His move to Sandringham does not change the legal circumstances. The relocation of Andrew to an affluent mansion on a 20,000-acre estate hardly constitutes justice for anyone impacted by the atrocities perpetrated by Jeffrey Epstein. This reflects a persistent tendency whereby affluent individuals and people with advantages evade genuine accountability for their conduct. The people did not want a change of address. They sought ramifications. They preferred a courtroom over a residence in the rural area. Conversely, they see one individual who resolved a sexual assault lawsuit for millions of dollars being allowed to add fuel to the flames and have a little sip of brandy, spending his days in opulent government-sanctioned anonymity. This is their observation. A dubious future for the monarchy. The intense debate on the future of the British monarchy has been rekindled during this play. Republicans, seeing an opportunity, assert that the Andrew scandal exemplifies the institution's intrinsic corruption, lack of accountability, and inadequacy for the 21st century. They claim this is true due to their perception of vulnerability. Nonetheless, public opinion studies consistently indicate that a majority of British voters still endorse a constitutional monarchy, although support may be waning. They desire reform, not the obliteration of the institution. They want an organization that is contemporary, efficient, and reflects the principles of accountability and transparency that characterize modern society. The acts undertaken by William and Catherine are deemed very significant in this context. Their purportedly rigid stance on Andrew indicates a knowledge of public emotion, a capacity that the older generation has sometimes seemed to lack. They offer the prospect of a fresh beginning, a chance to restore confidence, and the capacity to steer the monarchy towards a more stable future. A growing sentiment, however quietly spoken, suggests that King Charles might contemplate abdicating his throne in the future. The bequeathal of the crown to his dynamic and popular son may be the ultimate gesture of devotion to the institution he has vowed to uphold. He is 75 years old and is battling cancer. The conclusion of an epoch. Their anger is evident, but it is irrelevant to the circumstances at hand. Andrew is outraged by the loss of his status residence and financial independence. Her 3-decade-long deception has abruptly ended, forcing Ferguson to confront a financial reality she has long avoided. Ferguson is displeased with this change in circumstances. The public instead has opted to reserve its sympathy for others. The true tragedy is that Beatrice and Eugenie are now tasked with managing the emotional fallout it has engendered. They are compelled to see their disgraced father go into exile as their mother, revealed as a transactional partner, tries to preserve her financial security. They are compelled to endure the culpability of their parents' actions while concurrently striving to build their own life with dignity. King Charles has initiated a significant action. The excision of a cancerous tumor from the monarchy was not due to the acts of a vindictive brother. Instead, it was the consequence of a pragmatic king making a calculated decision to eliminate the growth. It represents a kind of finality, but not the justice anticipated by many in the populace. The chapter of Royal Lodge has concluded. As a shadow of his former princely self, Andrew will now inhabit the tranquil fields of Norfolk, accompanied by his assemblage of 72 teddy bears. Moreover, Fergie, the Duchess of York, is now seeking her next opportunity as a free agent, marking the first instance in decades that she has found herself in this situation. The tripod has collapsed. They will now confront their dire destinies separately, their toxic bond of mutual advantage irrevocably severed by a king who has said unequivocally that the performance is over. The most notorious divorced couple in Britain will now confront their dismal futures apart. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts and say goodbye for now.